Albert and Eleanor shuffled down the street. Their bones creaked, mirroring the ancient houses lining the lane. They stopped. A sign, gleaming like a gold tooth, hung before a tall, narrow house. Dr. Brompton Watts, it proclaimed, inventor, alchemist, purveyor of dreams.
Dreams indeed,
Eleanor muttered, her voice a dry rustle. Albert, however, stared at the sign. His eyes, cloudy with age, seemed to spark. A dream flickered within them, a longing for days gone by.
Let's just see, shall we?
His voice was surprisingly strong. He pulled Eleanor towards the door. The hinges whined like a mournful ghost as they entered. The air inside hummed with a strange energy. It smelled of sulfur and lavender, of promises and regrets. The hallway was dark, lit by flickering gaslight. Shadows danced on the walls, taking on grotesque shapes. Albert, however, didn't seem to notice. He marched forward, his eyes fixed on a door at the end of the hall. It pulsated with an eerie green light. The door creaked open. Inside, bubbling vials lined shelves that reached towards the vaulted ceiling. A figure hunched over a table cluttered with instruments looked up. Dr. Brompton Watts, with eyes like polished stones, smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile.
Welcome, welcome.
He rasped, his voice like dry leaves. He gestured to two rickety chairs. Albert sat eagerly. Eleanor perched on the edge, her gaze darting about the cluttered room. Her hand clutched her husband's arm.
We saw your sign, dreams, you say?
Dr. Brompton Watts' smile widened. He picked up a vial, the liquid within glowing with the same eerie green light as the door.
Dreams, yes, and more.
He swirled the vial, his eyes never leaving Albert.
This is the elixir of youth.
Eleanor gasped. Albert leaned forward, captivated.
Youth!
Albert breathed, his voice hoarse. He reached out a trembling hand. Dr. Brompton Watts pulled the vial back.
Not so fast, it comes with a price.
He named a sum that made Eleanor's heart skip a beat. But Albert didn't hesitate. He thrust a bag of gold coins into the doctor's hand.
Give it to me.
He demanded, his old voice filled with an almost frightening urgency. Dr. Brompton Watts laughed, a dry, crackling sound. He handed Albert the vial.
One drop, no more.
But Albert was already tipping the vial back, draining the contents in one long gulp. Eleanor cried out, but it was too late. Section 4, A Baby's Mind. Albert gasped. He clutched his chest, his face contorting in pain. He shrunk, his clothes falling loosely around him. Eleanor watched in horror as her husband, her companion of 50 years, became a squalling infant on the floor. But it wasn't just his body that had transformed. As his eyes met hers, she saw a glimmer of understanding, of terror. He was a baby, yes, but trapped within was the mind of a man. Her man. Section 5, Eleanor's choice.
what have you done?
He should have heeded my warning.
Dr. Brompton Watts merely shrugged, pocketing the gold. Eleanor ignored him. She gathered the now sobbing Albert into her arms. He was warm, soft, smelling faintly of milk and the strange, sweet scent of the elixir. Looking down at his tear-stained face, she felt a surge of love, fierce and protective. She knew what she had to do. Turning back to the doctor, she grabbed another vial, this one glowing a soft pink.
Drink.
Dr. Brompton Watts hesitated, his eyes widening, but something in her gaze, a steely glint, made him obey. Section 6. A Strange New Life. The pink elixir worked quickly. The doctor groaned, his body morphing, shrinking, until he was nothing more than a whimpering babe himself. Eleanor left him there, a pile of discarded clothes on the floor. She had her Albert, and that was all that mattered. She walked out of the lab, the baby cradled in her arms. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, a bittersweet symphony of endings and beginnings. She was young again, her body vibrant, her heart aching with a strange mixture of grief and hope. She had her husband, yes, but he was her child now. What would their future hold? She didn't know. But as she looked down at Albert's face, his old eyes gazing up at her with a trust so profound, she knew she would face it, whatever it may be, together. The street seemed different now, the houses less imposing, the shadows less menacing, or perhaps it was simply her perspective that had shifted. She was young, yes, but life, it seemed, had a way of twisting even the most fantastical dreams into a strange new reality.